Hi, welcome to Drama Means. We're talking about Jazz for Two, the 2024 Korean drama, and we're going to touch upon a little bit of Everyone Loves Me, a 2024 Chinese drama. Today, Drama Means Mel is ranting her ass off because she just doesn't fucking get it.
Okay. Well, first for a little tiny bit of a summary. It's kind of an emotional story, so I'm not really going to go blow by blow with the plot. But Jazz for Two is a coming-of-age story about overcoming your past trauma and being honest with yourself about who you are and who you love.
Okay, this is me ranting. I really don't get it. So I'm welcoming people to let me know, tell me what you think. I am kind of noticing a lot of this, character, a certain character that is just very, mean right off the bat. I get it. A lot of people, this is stemmed from so many, different dramas where, this, in Chinese, it's called 霸道总裁, demanding, domineering, CEO is that term. Translated in Chinese term.
Oh, interesting.
I think Japanese term is kind of like tsundere, which is that really that really cold, sought out, popular person. I don't get it because I don't understand why we want to see a couple get together when one of them is an asshole. Why? In this day and age, right? When everyone's talking about red flags and green flags. And yet here we have all these red flag characters that we're rooting for to get their significant other.
Yeah, I do find some of these dramas overdo what we would call arcing the characters, where you want to start the character very cold and unsympathetic and maybe a downright asshole, so that you can then soften the character and then end them in a very friendly place. And so you can look back at your drama and go, look at this character art, look at this transformation this character did. But there is a fine line between starting a character off as complex or, maybe a little cold to just downright asshole, where you're wondering why any of the other characters in the show want to hang out with this person.
Yeah. So, let's get a little bit into it, with Jazz for Two. It basically starts off with this kid who is, an aspiring pianist. So he starts his school days, he took some time off, he goes to school, this, kind of specializes in music, high school.
It's like a music arts high school.
Yeah. And so he starts his schooling there, and he stumbles upon this room that has a piano in it, and with the piano there is a music score, and he ends up playing this music score. And then right off the bat, your lead character, Han Tae, he shows up very, very aggressive, super menacing, and just downright violent. And threatens him, and it's you better not come into this room and play that song, and don't touch the piano, all this stuff, right? And threatening.
The opposite of a meet cute.
Yeah, totally not. But you don't know this person. He's a stranger to you. What gives you the right to treat a complete stranger who's done nothing to you? And his only bad thing he did was play a musical tune on a piano. That's not your private piano, not your private room. He didn't break into your house and play your piano. He didn't steal something from you. You have no right to be violent towards that person.
Yeah, it seems like a massive, what do you call it? Bringing a sledgehammer to a knife fight. You're well, that was an overcorrection. No matter what your emotions are in that moment, what he's feeling by hearing that song and hearing the piano, no matter what he's feeling, it's a massive overreaction to come out with physical domination.
Yeah. At this point, it's it's their first meeting, and I'm like, I don't want them together. I don't care. I don't care. Like, no matter what your trauma is, whatever your underlying emotions are, it does not give you the entitlement to treat someone like shit.
Now, at this point, when you're watching the show, do you know that these two are going to be a ship, or are you not sure yet?
Yes.
You know that they're like going to be the couple that's paired together.
I mean, they are like, you know, top on the bill. You know, they, with the previews and all that stuff, it's like they are the main couple. We know that eventually they are going to end up together. And it's like, why the hell am I rooting for them? Like, just put yourself in the position of like, oh, you wanted to play the song, and all of a sudden this person just comes at you and just threatens you. Like, no, that's it. It's done. Game over. There's nothing you can do to justify me liking you in any way. You have treated me like shit. You don't know me. We are complete strangers, and you have shat on me, basically. You've stepped on me. And what that tells me is you think you're better than me. You're justifying your actions because you yourself has some kind of emotional attachment. You don't give me a good explanation at all. And it's just like you have this entitlement over me. No, you don't get that. Like there is no romantic feelings that should ever develop from that situation.
So for a little bit of context, I think I have to say that I have not seen this drama from beginning to end. I know plenty about it, but I have not seen it. But I do have, this brings up a question for me. Because I might have a slightly different opinion on that depending on the answer of this question.
Okay.
Does he ever go to him fairly quickly and apologize? And say, hey, I'm really sorry that happened. Like, here's what my trigger was. I'm sorry for treating you that way.
No.
Okay, so if someone did that to me, if I had done something, oh, there's a piano here, oh, there's, and I went forth with my desire for that and started playing the piano, and then someone was very rude and violent and like screaming at me, I think you're exactly right. I'm like, well, I'm done with that person. I'm keeping my distance from that person forever. Why would I deal with anyone who treats other people like that, especially since it's our first meeting? But if they did come to me with their like hat in hand and was like, listen, I was really raw. That touched a nerve. I'm sorry. It's not your fault that I came at you like that. It's my fault. Then I would at least soften. Would I want to date that person? Probably not. Would I want to be that person's best friend? Probably not. But I would at least soften going, okay, because it takes a lot of character to apologize. And I do think apologies in this life go a long way. And I think it's hard sometimes for people to just go, yeah, I was a dick, and actually apologize. So I could see a scenario where that could happen. But as described, I completely agree with you.
So not only does he not apologize, he does it a second time.
Oh yeah, done, motherfucker.
Exactly. To the point where, okay, so also, if it were me and someone threatens me with violence and say, hey, if you ever fucking do this again, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm definitely not fucking returning to get my ass kicked. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, but people do irrational shit all the time. Like, maybe he didn't think he was serious, or like, I get that the motivation in this story wasn't really there. Like, it was just kind of like, boy, I'd sure like to play that song again, or like, it was kind of like a curiosity.
Yeah.
But I do understand, like, people do jump back into the fire and go, well, what's the worst that could happen? But I don't think in this instance it was well executed.
Yeah. So anyway, he goes back to the room again. He plays the piano again, plays the same tune again, and then this time, Tay comes in and was like, didn't I fucking tell you to not step foot in this room? And then proceeds to injure his hand, his wrist, so badly that he needed it bandaged up. And I'm saying, like, he's a pianist. His hands mean everything to him. And the fact that you decide to injure someone's hand, whatever your emotional state is, you hurt somebody. Something that really matters to them. I mean, not that, like, hurting anybody in general is bad, but like this specifically, he's a pianist and you fucked with his hands, his wrist, right? And I'm like, that's so fucking unforgivable. Like, okay, I understand you're really trying to like have the audience like relate to him because he has so much like trauma that he's going through. But you know what? That doesn't give you a free to hurt other people card.
Right. I think there's a really good saying. I can't remember where I heard this, but it was, the phrase is something like this. It's like, when you go out in public, the other people in public haven't bought a ticket to your carnival. So you don't have the right to take all of your trauma and all of your baggage and just spray it all over everyone else so that everything is a trigger and everything is just, well, my trauma, and well, this one time happened to me, and so now I can act however I want to act and do harm to others because they haven't bought a ticket to your crazy. And I hate using the word crazy, but like that's just the harsh reality. Like, when I go out in public, you haven't bought a ticket to my crazy and I haven't bought a ticket to yours. So I don't have to put up with you. And you don't have to put up with my bullshit. And the fact that you put your hands on someone else, like, that to me is a little underplayed, I think, in today's society, of what it means to put your hands on another human being. I don't care what you've been through. Unless I am the one that has threatened you or come after you or traumatized you, you do not put your hands on me. I don't care what the reason is. I mean, that is, I don't know, maybe it's because we live in an internet age and just people don't quite understand that physical barrier. But it's like, man, you come in here and put your hands on me, we have big problems.
Yeah. So I already like signed off.
This was the first episode, right?
This is the first episode, and I'm like, there is no reason for me to want this couple to be together at all. And that leads me to another drama, which is Everyone Loves Me, which is a Chinese drama. And this one's supposed to be more lighthearted. This guy and this girl, and they are online. They play the same video game. They're in like the same team. They know each other, but they don't know who they are in real life.
They know their video game avatars and video game personas, but they don't know each other personally.
Yes. But in real life, they actually go to the same college together, and the girl has a crush on the guy. And she asks her online buddies, like, how to approach the guy, how to get the guy to like her. And, of course, her online buddy, which is him, says, oh, well, guys like girls who are, like, gentle and, like, you know, not crude like you. So then she's like, well, fuck. And she she decides to pretend to not be herself, which is already like, duh, that's not gonna fucking work.
If you ever find yourself in a drama and someone tells you to not be yourself, it's bad advice.
It's just bad advice in general. In real life, like, stay true to yourself, okay? Like,
unless you're an asshole. Well,
don't be an asshole. Don't hurt people. Don't be violent towards people. But, like, don't change your persona and be some, like...
Meek.
Submissive,
perfect little lady.
Yeah.
Listen, I always say, honesty is always the best policy unless you're a crook. So be yourself unless you're a piece of shit human being.
Anyway, so then she approaches him, and then he proceeds to be a fucking dickhead to her the whole time. And, like, literally, like, this person that just looks down on her and says the rudest things, and she's still like, oh, and I'm like, bitch, get some self-respect. Come on. Like, and this is what irritates me is, like, I feel like society gives, like, good-looking people too much fucking credit.
Too much credit or too much, like a free pass? Like,
yeah,
to be an asshole?
Like, way, like, a free pass. But I'm like, okay, like, you're cold, whatever. Like, for me, like, if it were me and, like, he talked to me that way, I'd be like, well, fuck it. I've lost my interest. Like, I have no more interest in a guy that would talk to anyone. Like, it doesn't even matter if he likes you, like, romantically. I mean, you're not entitled to him liking you. But he could treat you with a little bit of common decency and treat you like a human being. every word out of his mouth doesn't have to be completely degrading towards her.
Yeah, it's like kicking someone just to kick them.
Yeah.
Like, I think the one thing you said there that's really smart is no one is entitled to like someone else just because they're liked. Like, if you decide you need to confess your love to your crush, their reciprocation isn't owed to you just because you like them. But it does seem that decency should be a bare minimum.
Yes.
Like, you should at least be decent to someone. Someone's like, hey, I really like you. Would you like to go on a date? I get it if you're like on a schoolyard and you're 9 and you're like, girls have cooties. Like, okay, I get it. But when you're in college, you should know that, like, that's not a very nice thing to do to someone. You would never want someone to do that to you, especially in public, and embarrass them. Like, I don't know. There's just no empathy in your soul at all. And I think empathy is the core of relatability a lot of times for characters. So how are we supposed to relate to a character who has no empathy at all? Like, why am I on board with this person? You couldn't even empathize with, like, hey, if I confessed to my crush and they told me to go jump off a fucking cliff, like, how would that make me feel? I just don't know what other trait you want me to hold on to for that character to go, okay, well, I hope this character's happy.
Yeah. So that pissed me off already. Like, I didn't like how she was treated. And then also the moment that she confessed to him, he was mic'd up, so the whole school heard him, right? And I'm not, like, maybe he didn't realize that the mic was still on, but, like, the fact is, the first words he said was, I don't like you. By that moment, he would have heard himself all over the fucking school, reverberating back into his own ears, and then he would realize that his mic is on him, right? Everyone heard it. She heard it. It's been broadcast over the whole school, right? That minute, you fucking stop your words. You say, let's take this somewhere else. Let's talk about this later. Let's, you don't fucking continue to berate her.
Yeah, there's just no reason. It's just mean.
It is.
It's just mean.
And so that tells me your character is a shit character. You're a shit human being. Maybe he felt a little bit bad because he, like, offered her an umbrella afterward because it started raining. But, like, did he really, like, regret saying any of that stuff? Not regret saying it like, oh, that she shouldn't have rejected him, but regretted making a fool out of her in front of the whole fucking school. No, he didn't. Not at all. The only time he started regretting it is when he realized that she was his crush in the online world.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he wanted something from her. He wanted her. What does that tell me? That means he can't be nice to anybody without wanting something from you.
Well, it's the most self-centered character ever. Like, you really only give a shit about your own self-interest at that point. Like, he can't even be a human being to this person. Again, he could have gone to her hat in hand and apologized and said, hey, I didn't know I was mic'd up. That was really harsh. I shouldn't have done that. But instead, he has to learn, oh, wait, I have a vested interest in this because I like this person in the gaming world. Well, now that I have a vested interest in this person, let me go show concern. And maybe I can get something out of it now. It's so transactional, it's really gross.
It's so gross. So, why the fuck am I rooting for this couple to be together? I'm not. I'm fucking checked out. I want them to never, ever see each other again. I want her to have a good life. I want her to find someone that actually cherishes her as a person, as a human being, before they see anything else about her. And him to go fuck himself.
You know what? This is so off topic, but it reminds me of a quote where we talk a lot about in the entertainment industry of if you meet an executive producer or an actor or someone kind of at the top, how they treat assistants, PAs, extras on set, background workers, or just people who they don't have any stake in. That's how you can tell if they're a good person or not, because the actors who treat the lowest PA and the intern and the craft service guy really well, you're like, oh, okay, they're a normal human. Because there's nothing, there's no transaction in that relationship. Like, that person has to do what they say. It's the actors who only treat people who are kind of on their level nicely, is when you start seeing the fakeness, when you start seeing people go like, actually, that guy's a dick. Because yeah, if you're another actor, if you're a director, like, I've literally had it where someone has been having a conversation with me, and then halfway through the conversation realized that I was a producer, and their demeanor instantly changes. They went from so disinterested and like, ugh, how can I get out of this conversation, to, oh, well, like, so interesting now. You're just so interesting. It's like, no, I'm not. You heard a title, and now you're my best friend.
That's so funny, because I also had a similar interaction. So I was in this group, and this guy is like a wannabe actor, right? He's like trying to be an actor. And, we're talking, and he's so like dismissive towards me, and like couldn't even look up from his like food that he was eating to like actually talk to me, and everything was like a one-word answer, and I was like, okay, I don't really want to talk to him, whatever. And then the group like organizer came over and was like, oh, Mel, she works on so and so, and she works in the industry, blah blah blah. All of a sudden it was like a 180 change, like, oh my god, that's so interesting, I want to talk to you, I want to, like, it was such a like, oh, I could possibly like cast him in something, and
you can do something for him now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, you, again, go fuck yourself. How about that one? So it was just so ridiculous for me to even like root for like either of the couples we're talking about right now in both of these dramas. Especially Everyone Loves Me. I dropped it because at that point I was so done, and like I saw some like other clips, and it was so cringe to me where he's just like trying to like get on her good graces again, and I was like, you don't fucking deserve that. And I don't know why anyone else is thinking otherwise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how you get to, especially in that case of the Chinese drama, I don't understand how you even get to the root cause of him being such a dick. You know what I mean? We talked about past trauma a second ago, and a lot of people like to use trauma as an excuse. Well, he behaved that way because he's just going through stuff, and he's been through stuff, and you just don't understand what people have gone through, which is all true. We don't understand what other people have gone through. We haven't walked in your shoes. So there may be a justification for a certain way you behave, at least in your own mind. But how do you get past that scene, that interaction, to even get to the place where you're like, well, should I empathize with this person? Have they gone through something that I can then relate to and go, oh, I get it? But it just comes out so hot over the top that I'm like, before you can even start, it's just done. Like, I can't even imagine a scenario now where I would be on your side. I don't even care what your trauma is. I'm in so far go fuck yourself mode that you can't get me back. And I think just as a storyteller, like, forget the realities of life and what we all go through. As a storyteller, I think you're being very hard on your audience. Think that you can punch them in the mouth with something like this and then hope to justify it later down the line, like hoping that the audience sticks with you long enough so that you can go, hey, that interaction that was super cringe, actually not as cringe. And then again, I can't imagine the scenario where it's okay for these things to happen in real life or in a drama. But as a storyteller, it's our job to get our stories out. It's our job to tell our stories. And if people tune out before the end of the first episode, you haven't done your job. I don't care how good your story is after that.
So my PSA today is to tell the people in the world, right? Let it be whoever you're interested in. If they have trauma, if they have things to work through, let them work through it before you actually step in. So one of my things is you need to learn to be a decent human being before you can be a good significant other. So if you aren't a good human being to others, why would you think that your relationship would work?
Right, that makes sense.
Um,
I mean, I think people are always going through their shit. I don't know if you ever solve it all, but I do think, I don't know, I take it, there's a little tweak to what you said to me where I'm like, I totally get what you're saying. But to me, it's almost like you never quite work through all of your stuff. And so, but as long as you're trying to work on it and striving, and also just treating other people with respect. And this may irk some folks, but it really bothers me when people put their trauma on a pedestal and they put everyone else's stuff under kind of a category of bullshit. It's like, oh, well, you have your shit and I have my trauma. And when you're doing that, you can justify any action for yourself. And then you can also feel like you're the victim to anyone else's thing because it's their shit and your trauma, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
So as long as you're treating their trauma like your trauma and that you both go, hey, we've been through some things. No matter who you are, you've been through some things. The most privileged people in the world have scars. We all have scars. So as long as you're treating yourself with respect and the person you're with respect, then you can kind of work through it. And maybe you can work through it together, or maybe you need to go off on your own and work through it. But it's when you start just scarring the hell out of each other, because again, it's your bullshit, but it's my trauma. It's like, you can never hope to be successful.
Yeah, so that is why I wanted to talk about these two dramas. I did finish Jazz for Two. I did not finish Everyone Loves Me.
How many episodes did you last?
I got through 8 episodes.
That's a lot more than I would have.
I really wanted to like it. Like, again, if anyone has heard past episodes, I love the actress. Like, Talia is, like, amazingly gorgeous to me. And then, also, I think she's a good actress. This one, I just could not get through. I couldn't, like, I was over it, and I was like, he doesn't deserve the relationship. And I don't care, like, some people enjoyed her, like, kind of tormenting him afterward when he's trying to, like, get, you know, back in with her and stuff, but, like, I don't enjoy it. I don't think she should have, like, you know, given him the time of day, even if it's, like, you know, to torture him or whatever, which he not really torture, but just, like, ignoring him and then him groveling at her feet. Either way, like, I absolutely hated the whole thing. And by the way, it was so fucking popular and everyone, like, loves this drama, which I just don't understand. And it's, again, like, romanticizing a character that is an asshole. So whoever you want as your significant other, whoever you're interested in, make sure they're a decent human being. Like, don't ever put yourself in the shoes of Sehun or Qianling. Those people are not worth your time. They're not worth the relationship. It's not worth your effort to get on their good side. Yeah, treat yourself better.
That's the other thing, the other side of this I kind of want to talk about for a second, because I feel like we've nailed the kind of, like, for lack of a better term, the bully side of things, the kind of asshole side of things. Flipping it to the other side, being the relationship being two-sided, why Sehun is interested in a relationship here the other direction. Like, from his perspective, this guy comes in like a raging bull on 2 occasions and basically verbally and physically assaults you. It's very, very difficult for me to buy from his perspective that he would want to pursue something. It stops making sense to me. So it's like, okay, from one side, I'm not cheering for the asshole. And on the other side, I don't want to cheer for this person who let themselves be abused. And again, sometimes we can't physically defend ourselves, but you don't have to put yourself back into that situation over and over again. It starts giving you this kind of like battered person syndrome kind of feeling, and you're like, wait, why are you engaging? So now it feels like I'm watching trauma unfold live, and you're subjecting yourself to it, and I start to question their character as well. So now I don't want them to be together for like more than one reason. It's not just because you're dating an asshole. It's also like, why do you want that? Out of all the people you could be with, why do you want that? It's just a very disturbing trend among kind of romances and these dramas of making, it's almost like the abuser and the victim is a love story. And I get it. Everyone, abusers.
Well, I mean, it is a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing, but it's just like, I don't know. And I totally understand people. Well, they're not glorifying this sort of relationship, but you kind of are. Like, I know you say that. It's like, oh, well, they changed. They grew together. But that was their meat. Their meat was an abusive meat.
Yeah.
And then you're asking the audience to say, hey, we want them to be together. We want to ship them. So you're asking the audience to cheer for an abusive relationship and just hope it gets better.
Yeah. But even if it does get better, right? Like, say they date for a while and then 7 years goes by, which everyone, I don't know if anyone knows about 7-year itch. It's really hard. It's a year where, like, you've been together for way too long, and things like, you start having issues, and a lot of relationships end at the 7-year mark, right? So I'm giving them okay, what if they're together for 7 years? And what if he just stops liking you? Then does he get to be violent again because he was violent before, and then he stopped being violent because he liked you, but then now he doesn't like you? Then he gets to be violent again? Like, it's just...
Well, the violent thing in this particular case, in the Jazz for Two, is, it's more than a red flag. And I think when we talk about trauma and we talk about internalized homophobia and all these different things that you can justify, like, well, this is what he was feeling and this is why he came after him so hard. I get it. People are allowed to grow and people are allowed to move through their own things, and it's awful to have to deal with certain stuff. I totally get it, and I sympathize. What I don't buy is him entering a relationship with the person he kind of went after. Like, I would more be willing to see something like this and watch a story like this if Tae took his interaction and then learned from it, but also acknowledged, I can't be in a relationship with someone I have physically assaulted and sexually assaulted. I can take my lessons from this and then move on down the road and become a better person. But engaging with a person that you have now traumatized, that's where the ick gets to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm not even saying that people can't be redeemed and people can't work through their own stuff. And like, we all have things to work through and try to become better humans. But I do think if you're starting off a relationship by victimizing someone else, I don't think people just get to be your, like...
punching bag.
Not even punching bag, but like your growth tool for you to, like, well, you know what, I just had to work through my trauma and now we're good, right? It's like, I don't know if we are. It's tough. I don't know. It gets complicated.
I would want them to have a happy ending, but not with each other.
That's what I think I'm trying to say. You said it so much more succinctly. I want a happy ending for the guy, because obviously throughout the series, they start digging into, like, why he had this violent reaction, and the history with his brother, and the history, again, with himself, and who he is, and who his brother was, and all this stuff. I just don't want them to be together after that first reaction.
Interaction.
What did I say?
Reaction.
Oh yeah, interaction.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is, if you ask me how the story was, it was fine. How was the acting? It was pretty good. Do I care for it? It was fine. I don't care for the relationship built. I think it can be good, like, lesson to learn kind of situation. But I definitely was not rooting for the couple to be together, so when they do end up together, it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Do I agree with dating someone who was violent towards you? No, definitely not. So, that's my feelings on it. That's why I had to rant. So, for Jazz for 2, I'm going to rate it a step out for fresh air. Because I think I really did need to step out for some fresh air with this one. The fact that I need to rant about it. But it's mainly like, it's not necessarily the production that I have an issue with. So I'm not going to rate Everyone Loves Me because I dropped it after 8 episodes, so...
Well, dropping it's a rating in its own.
Yeah. So I want to, well, I'm going to talk about my green flag. I recommend, and this drama might not be for other people because it is a very slow burn. And, you know, people might be very against an age gap where there's an older woman and a younger guy. But the guy, Chichel from Rational Life, is my greenest flag ever. And, like, that is, like, my dream husband material guy. I actually compare Rational Life with Find Yourself, which is another older woman, younger guy scenario. I think Find Yourself is on Netflix. Rational Life, I think it's on Mango TV, I think, but I don't remember if it's on Viki or where else it is. But, a relationship that develops in the workplace, but Rational Life, it takes a very natural build. So it's not that they set out to actually like have feelings for each other. It just really just develops through very natural, like every day spending like, you know, hours together working on projects and like supporting each other when like shit hits the fan, and you know, they really just develop a care for each other. And then literally, it's called Rational Life because it is like the most rational decision making in deciding to do something irrational, which is being together. But it's like they consider all the issues and make all the correct decisions in order to finally make the decision to be together, which I really appreciate. I think Find Yourself is a crap drama where this supposed girl or woman, this businesswoman who is, you know, the boss of everybody and just, you know, like so super smart and ends up having a relationship with an intern, you know, and all her decisions are completely wrong and so easily manipulated. And the guy is toxic, the girl is toxic, the love triangle is toxic. So, and then there's Rational Life, which is like Chichel makes all the right decisions in terms of how he approaches her, how he courts her, and ultimately when they start dating, the decisions that he makes to make the relationship like work. And it's just the name Rational Life is such like so fitting for the drama itself. And how she like knows exactly what she wants, and she's not going to go around being manipulated by all these like men that like want something from her. So yeah, that's my recommendation. So it's Rational Life. It's starring Dylan Wong and Qing Lan. So go check that out. And thanks for listening to me rant. I've been so heated. I gave myself like a 2 to 3 week like break to kind of settle down, and then talking about it, I got heated all up again. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.